So people have been asking me, what do you think of President Zelensky as a negotiator? You know, he's been called the Winston Churchill of our times, a defender of democracy, an inspirational leader, and gosh, it's hard to disagree with any of those things. They're all really true. But when I think of Zelensky, I also think of him as a great negotiator. I'm Bob Bordone. I'm a senior fellow at Harvard Law School. I'm the founder and former director of Harvard Law School's Negotiation and Mediation clinical program, and I'm the founder and principal of the Cambridge Negotiation Institute. Today, you're going to want to stick around as I share with you 4 key moves that Ukrainian President Zelensky has taken that really demonstrate how outstanding a negotiator he is. But first, let's take a step back and just let me offer a reminder of what we mean when we talk about negotiation. So we define negotiation really broadly. It's not just what Zelensky is perhaps doing across the negotiation table with, let's say, the Russians, but it's any communication, written, spoken, verbal, nonverbal, any communication to influence or persuade anyone to do anything. So using that definition, let me share with you 4 key steps he's taken, key steps that are hallmark steps of truly great negotiators. First, great negotiators identify and appeal to the stakeholders who are away from the negotiation table. They're not the decision makers, but they influence the decision makers at the negotiation table. And Zelensky has been absolutely brilliant about this. And he really started this work at the very beginning of the war, when apparently Western world leaders offered him an escape from Ukraine. And in a brilliant tweet, he responds, "I don't need a ride. I need more ammunition." And in doing that, that was not necessarily to the Western leaders, although you could say it was, but it was a statement to all free peoples in the West and around the world who would defend their land. It was a way of showing this is not somebody who's going to abandon his people. And that first move has really continued with a brilliant social media campaign that is designed to influence the citizens of the West. We see it in all sorts of ways. We see Zelensky walking the streets of war-ravaged Kyiv. We see him visiting injured soldiers and devastated families. I'm also truly fascinated and have no doubt that there's a purpose around his choice of clothing. Wearing the military gear, wearing that now very famous t-shirt, are ways of connecting with regular people. It's a way of saying to the citizens of the West, I am not some distant, faraway bureaucrat. I am with my people. I am like you. And I think that this has had a tremendous impact on having Western populations, democratically elected populations, influence their leaders to say, this is someone we need to stand up for. This is not just a situation of let's send a bit of aid, but let's really rally. Okay, second key step. Great negotiators identify and name shared values in order to stir positive emotions, in order to actually motivate people to do something. And again, Zelensky has been so incredibly good at this. One of the ways in which he has spoken about this conflict is that it's not simply defending Ukraine, although he has spoken about that, but he has framed this in shared values around Ukraine is standing for democracy. Ukraine is standing for civilization. Ukraine is standing for the post-World War II order. Ukraine is standing for human rights. So what he's really done is tapped into lots and lots of ideals that go to the heart of, again, what many in Western Europe and in the United States and in other free countries, whether they be in the Middle East or Australia or New Zealand, values that these people really care about. The other thing that's really interesting, though, and I think it's a brilliant negotiation move, is that human beings like to feel appreciated, but we also, one of, I think, a value that certainly many Americans have, is that we also want to be challenged to be the very best version of who we are. And this is something that Zelensky has really threaded a needle very well. So I take, for example, how Zelensky has applauded and thanked President Biden by name for calling the acts of Russia and Putin a genocide. But he hasn't been satisfied. In fact, when he spoke to the U.S. Congress, he had this quote. He said, "I am addressing President Biden. You are the leader of the nation. I wish you to be the leader of the world."
Being the leader of the world means to be the leader of peace.
So this unique tapping into a value that I think many of us care about, of being appreciated, but also being challenged to be more, has been very successful. More recently, he did this when addressing the UN Security Council. Zelensky, after appreciating the invitation, said, "Where is the security that the Security Council needs to guarantee? It is not there, though there is a Security Council." Again, this combination of both appreciation but challenge. Third, and I think very related to this, great negotiators establish high aspiration values. And this is something Zelensky has done so well. So let me just define, what do we mean by an aspiration value in negotiation? An aspiration value is basically your goals. What are the things you most hope to achieve? And in negotiation, we talk about the distinction between aspiration values, what we really want to achieve, and a reservation value, which is the least we're willing to accept before we walk away. And research has shown that really great negotiators have very ambitious, very high aspiration values. They're not just aiming for what's the least we can get. And Zelensky has really embodied that, right? He has not just said, "Please send anything you can," or "Whatever you send, it will help." He's actually called us to really quite high expectations. He said, "I want a no-fly zone. I would like to have some warplanes. I would like to have your most advanced and offensive weapon systems," right? Not just defensive javelins. I want your Patriot missiles. Oh, and I want them as fast as possible. It's not clear to us, but it may well be the case that Zelensky knows he's unlikely to get these. But from a negotiation perspective, he also knows that aiming high will probably achieve him better results than simply aiming for what he might get. And I think he's been so skillful at that. Lastly, and I'm going to spend some time on this because I think he's done this so artfully, but great negotiators really tap into the underlying narrative, the story, the worldview of the person or the entity they are trying to influence. So instead of speaking just in their own language or about things that are important to them, they make connections to the narrative story worldview of the person they're trying to influence. And Volodymyr Zelensky has done this so incredibly well. All you need to really do is take a look at the addresses that he has made to national legislatures and parliaments of many countries. Whenever he does this, he doesn't just speak about the situation in Ukraine. He doesn't speak just about his needs. Rather, he crafts this in a way to connect with the national narrative, the national image of the particular country to which he's delivering his address. What an artful way to negotiate. Consider just a few examples. In the United States, when he addressed a joint session of Congress, he reminded Americans of key moments in their own history when they were under attack, and how in those moments Americans were called to greatness. He specifically referenced both 9/11 and Pearl Harbor by name. When addressing the Canadian Parliament, he asked members of Parliament to imagine Vancouver under siege, or imagine Toronto's trademark CN Tower being bombed. When he addressed the members of the European Union's Parliament, which is a body that was set up to really stand above national interests, he evoked aspirations of a broader common European project that would transcend nationalism and that would transcend tribal tendencies. When he spoke to the Israeli Knesset, he used the chilling language of, quote, the final solution. And he reminded the members of the Knesset that Russia launched its invasion of Ukraine on February 24th which was the date that the Nazi Party actually was founded in Germany. When he spoke to the British Parliament, Zelensky quoted Winston Churchill's address to the British people during the World War II blitzkriegs, when Winston Churchill inspired the nation by saying, "We will fight in the forests, we will fight in the shores, we will fight in the streets." And Zelensky uses that language. But even more interesting, he also connects to, in his speech, Britain's own cultural heritage, quoting William Shakespeare in Hamlet and his to be or not to be soliloquy. So Zelensky has this incredible skill set as a negotiator, and so far it has paid off, right? I think we can say pretty certainly that thanks to his sophisticated approach of influencing and persuading a broad set of stakeholders that then influence decision makers, that he's helped unify the West. He has received more aid, more support, more unity, more solidarity than I think anyone imagined would have happened just a few months ago. So, to recap, 4 steps great negotiators like Zelensky take are: 1, identify and appeal to the stakeholders away from the negotiation table, but who can influence the decision makers at the table. 2, identify and name shared values that stir positive emotions and that motivate people to action. 3, always establish really high aspiration values. You're more likely to get a better outcome if you do. And 4th, when you're negotiating, tap into the narrative, the story, the worldview of the person you're trying to influence. So, if you want to see more of my videos that focus on current events, take a look at my conflict resolution analysis of the Will Smith, Chris Rock kerfuffle at the Academy Awards. And of course, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the button. I'm Bob Bordone, and let's keep negotiating together.
Click the next video. Here it comes. What makes a good mediator? You are only 1 click away.